Welcome. My name is Christina Cavage, and I am the Director of Curriculum and Teaching Excellence here at IMMERSE. So I'm very excited to share with you all about IMMERSE today. A large part of my job involves building lessons in our beautiful, engaging spaces. And today, we're going to be exploring a few of those spaces. But before that, let's talk about the what, how, and why of IMMERSE. So IMMERSE is a VR platform for language learning. We combine AI, live instruction, and a global community to create an immersive language learning experience. So let's begin with the what. There are three key components in IMMERSE. First, we have our live group classes, and these are led by our expert instructors in real time. Second, we have our AI-powered independent learning. This is anytime, anyplace learning. And third, what fun is learning if you don't engage with others outside of the classroom? And so our community of spaces allow for learners to gather and engage outside of that classroom. They can engage in cross-cultural conversations, practice their new skills, or just enjoy hanging out with one another. Lastly, this all happens either on a MetaQuest headset or on a desktop computer through Google Chrome. The home dashboard is the central hub for learners. Here, they can see their progress, upcoming lessons at their level, access tutorials, and meetups as well. And from the home dashboard, learners can view the upcoming schedule or even navigate to dig deeper into their learning path and community spaces, as well as review. Digging deeper in their learning path looks like this. IMMERSE offers learning paths tailored to a learner's proficiency level. That proficiency level is determined by a placement test that learners are prompted to take when they first join. Our levels are all aligned to the Common European Framework of Reference, and we offer pre-A1 to C1 lessons. Here, this level 2 learner can instantly book a live lesson or even practice on their own. So what is that practice on your own or that pre-lesson? Let's take a look at that. The practice on your own builds a learner's functional vocabulary and speaking skills to boost their success in our lessons. After working through some vocabulary activities, which include flashcards, both text and images, as well as some multiple choice activities, a learner is then moved to the pronunciation activities. They're putting that vocabulary into practice now. They receive real-time feedback on their pronunciation, getting a score that takes into account their accuracy, their completeness, and their fluency. You'll also notice the color coding here. So learners receive maybe a range of red to yellow on those items that need attention. Yellow, less attention, red, the most attention. They can listen to their own pronunciation and record again. This is really important for adult learners because it gives them the autonomy they need to pick and choose what strengths and weaknesses to work on. After some pronunciation practice, the learner then has the opportunity to put all of that, the vocabulary and the pronunciation, into a real conversation practice. And they do this with an avatar here. So you'll see in the upper right-hand corner, the topic of the conversation, and this one is built around describing preferences related to land. And you'll also see the context. Two friends here are discussing their vacation plans and talking about their preferred environments. The avatar provides feedback, and you see a little bit here. Instead of lick, you should use like, right? Learners they have a set of tools available to them. One thing you see there is that light bulb. That's our hint button. And they could click that to get some ideas of how they could possibly answer a question, how they could respond. They also can click on individual words and phrases and get its meaning, see synonyms and other uses of that word in context. There are also translation tools available to them. Now, after some practice, it's time for a lesson. Our lessons take place in over 40 different scenes, and this is a little glimpse of our kitchen here. But we're going to be jumping into some lessons after a bit of this, and so you're going to see a lot more of that in real time. So what happens after the lesson? Well, let's think about a traditional classroom, right? What happens after a traditional learning experience? We might walk over to the cafeteria, unpack a lesson with our friends, just hang out and enjoy the space. Well, that same idea continues in Immerse. That idea of a community of learners happens in our community spaces. Our community spaces allow learners to connect with one another. You see there are 6 spaces, and learners can either join a public or a private space. These private spaces are great for customizing group practices or review sessions, or even perhaps hosting a birthday party, which our members did not so long ago. So being able to gather with like-minded people, practice the language, unpack it, and build that community exists also in Immerse. Maybe you also want to run over and play a little bit of a game after class, right? And that's what you're seeing here. You're seeing learners apply their language skills in a mystery match game. And we know as language educators that gamification goes a really long way. So how about the why of Immerse? Well, Immerse's methodology is based on real-world practice, right? It's task-driven. So what does that mean? It means that the goal might be for learners to use their new language to complete a task. Maybe it's planning a vacation or solving a problem. It's also inquiry-fueled learning. And inquiry-fueled learning emphasizes student-driven exploration and critical thinking over that traditional teacher-led instruction. Learning is driven by problems and scenarios and questions that really encourage learners to collaborate together, to investigate, to analyze, and construct meaning. And it's focused around successful communication. So all our lessons are hyper-focused on one communicative task, whether that be ordering a meal in a restaurant or negotiating a car purchase, or even participating in a job interview, all focused on one communicative goal. The affordances include feedback, both from the live instructor, right, and the personalized, tailored AI feedback that they get from that avatar. Learning is contextualized, right? So learning takes place in these authentic environments, and conversations then are built around these real-world experiences. So you're talking about solving a community problem in a community space. You're talking about an emergency in front of an emergency scene. Lastly, language is shared between people, right? So language needs to be social. Our live classes and those global meeting spaces allow learners to gather and use the language with one another. Like many speakers early today that we've heard, there are so many benefits of learning in VR. We know that it reduces anxiety, and this is especially true with foreign language anxiety, right? Being behind an avatar, so you're not losing face in class. Additionally, it leads to an improvement in student engagement and motivation, recall, and retention of content. So when you're holding an airplane ticket in your hand, you are highly likely to remember the name of that object rather than just seeing the word in a textbook. And we know when learners are engaged and motivated, there's an increase in their confidence and skills transfer. We've heard that several times in some of the sessions today. So how does Immerse fit into your program, and how are other programs currently using Immerse? Well, there are many use cases, and here are just a few ways our users have found that fit. It may be pre-arrival. So imagine that you're building that language, you're building that development of language prior to going to the location where that language is spoken, whether it be a study abroad program or coming to the States to learn English in an IEP. It's also a place to engage with conversation partners. And I'm sure if you're a language educator or learning and development, you're seeing the richness of those community scenes to practice language in authentic environments. We also see our users engaging in lessons for that real world application of language, right? If I have to give a presentation at a business meeting, why not practice giving that presentation in a meeting room, right? In a business setting. And lastly, to build and foster that task-based learning. Our lessons are built around completing a task, whether it be making a meal, negotiating a business deal, going to the doctor, right? All of that. In addition to the vibrant platform, there is also a dedicated client support team, right? So our folks are committed to supporting every learner's success, right? Whatever that means for that learner. And there are on-demand data and reporting features to help you see how learning is happening. So let's jump in. We're going to move onto our platform now. We're going to observe learners in 3 different spaces. We'll start with the airport scene. And in our airport scene, you're going to see all the elements you would find in an airport in your hometown. There's a ticket agent desk, security, a waiting area, baggage claim, and even an airplane to board. We will first observe a Spanish lesson. Now, just a little note here. Traditionally, our instructors conduct a large part of their lessons in Spanish, but for our purposes today, you're going to hear some glimpses in English. So I'm going to stop sharing and we're going to jump over to our scene. So I believe our group is getting ready in their class right now. And we'll be looking at it from a learner perspective. So we're going to start out looking at it from the learner's view, and you'll be able to see what it looks like on a learner's desktop. And after that, we'll move to an instructor view. So here we are at the airport scene, and you can see it brings practice to the airport to a whole new level. The scene is a great environment for lessons on following directions, identifying problems and solutions, and making predictions. Today, we're looking at a Spanish lesson on giving instructions at the pre-A1 level. And this particular lesson falls about mid-level in that A1 scale. The learners have already done several activities to ensure they have the vocabulary needed to complete a task like this. You will notice that the learners can even engage with one another as they would in a real classroom. Okay, so really building that community of learners. So they're completing what we call our graphic organizer board or our Go board. Let's listen in now as the instructor gives them instructions for the next activity.
Hey, great job, everyone. Awesome, awesome. Does anybody have any questions before we move on to our next activity?
I don't think so. I think I'm good.
No questions.
So now what you're going to do is you're going to work with each other. You're going to take turns drawing a card, and on the card you will see a command. You're going to read the command to your partner, then your partner will need to go and do the action. For example, if you read scan your passport, then your partner will need to go and scan his or her passport. After, you will switch roles. You will have 4 minutes, and I am here to help you.
So we just observed the learners getting instructions verbally, but what you just saw pop up there is it's also sent to the learners in written form. You're seeing one learner using the translate feature for those instructions. This translate feature is especially useful in a level like this one, pre-A1, where learners may easily be able to interact with some of that content we saw earlier, but instructions may present a new challenge. Having them accessible to the learner in their chosen language helps to ensure an activity moves smoothly. And moving is what they're doing right through the airport, going through security backwards there. And you're seeing them interact with the objects in the airport as well. You're observing them using their notes, picking up our prompt cards. And now she's going to be scanning her passport and getting a personalized ticket with her name on it, right? Just a great feature to really engage learners. Let's listen in as they move through the airport security. Just added that ticket to her own personal backpack.
Okay.
Let's listen in.
Pon algo en la cinta y pasa por seguridad.
Ok, algo en la cinta, mochila en la cinta. Ahora,
Mochila.
oh, mi mochila en la
Mi
cinta.
mochila.
They move through security. If they bring something in through security they shouldn't, it will go off just like a real security. So they're picking up their
Ok.
items. And they're going to
Ahora
their next task.
obtén dinero y compra una soda en la máquina.
¿Dónde es dinero?
Allí,
Ah.
al lado del máquina.
So being able to pick up money, put it in a vending machine, and using the language to do so. How rich is that for a language learner? So we're actually going to be moving to the next scene, but while we're switching scenes and you see them celebrating, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you notice? Feel free to unmute yourself and share just your immediate thoughts on that. So very immersive, everything we've seen and heard today about engagement and the affordances that exist, we saw that through that airport scene. Just really amazing being able, could you imagine if you're a language learner and you get to practice in that airport scene before you actually have to move through an airport where somebody's speaking a language that is brand new to you. So really rich in the opportunities to contextualize language. So we should be moving over. And in this one now, we're actually going to be looking at not from the instructor, I'm sorry, not from the learner perspective, but we're going to be looking at it from the instructor perception here. So you're going to see a few more tools. We're in now the home scene. And so Jose, our instructor, is taking us around here. You'll notice a large number of objects in the home scene, and not maybe the tidiest of homes, but a great environment for someone learning a language to engage in. You will definitely remember the name of a toothbrush when you actually are picking it up and holding that toothbrush in your hand, right? So engaging with objects really activates our senses and increases our learning. The home scene is a perfect environment to teach learners who are still developing their knowledge of everyday vocabulary. Notice all the items in this space. Okay, so in this scene, we hold lessons on expressing needs, describing locations and explaining processes. And right now, we're going to watch a little snippet of this pre-A1 Spanish class on describing daily routines. Again, we're seeing from the instructor view here. So you're going to notice it's quite different. The instructor has their lesson plan, and that's what you're seeing to the left there. All the elements are readily available to that instructor. The lesson plan is carefully scaffolded, moving from controlled practice to an independent practice. And this Go board, this graphic organizer you're seeing, is one example of more controlled practice. There are several types of activities we can do on this board. We can create a matching activity. We can have learners put a dialogue in order, and we can have them categorize as they're doing here. So let's listen in.
¿Qué es almorzar? Almorzar.
Almorzar es comer a las 12.
Lunch. Okay.
So you saw the student reach out to the instructor for help, and the instructor able to get that call for help and use some instructor tools like the quick text to not only verbally give that learner what they needed, but also a visual representation. After our more controlled practice, we move to a semi-independent practice. There's a lot of celebration going on here. There's always celebration in our classes. So we're going to watch learners do such an activity here where they talk about how often they do their daily chores. And there are lots of ways we might teach this in the classroom, but in the end, it's really flat in the classroom when you don't have all of these objects with you. Notice that the activity here requires the learners to relate to their daily tasks with an object here. So being an active learner is so important for learning. And this goes beyond just standing up, right? It's about the realia and the authentic experiences. Research shows us that this type of learning reinforces vocabulary retention and thus increases overall learning. So let's take a listen into their daily activity lesson.
En la mañana yo bebo café. ¿Tú bebes en la mañana o en la noche?
Yo bebo café en la mañana y a veces bebo café en la noche, sin cafeína.
Yeah.
¿Y tú lees, cómo se dice, newspaper en la mañana o en la noche? ¿O cuándo?
Let me use my scanner real quick. El periódico.
El periódico, sí. Sí, ¿cuándo lees el periódico?
En la noche y en la mañana.
Excelente.
Mm-hmm.
Y eso.
No sé. ¿Cómo se dice water?
Agua. No sé.
Okay, so you saw several things there. What you saw is the instructor taking notes during the activity, and our instructors take notes on language successes and struggles. But you also saw the learner use a scanner to scan an item that they were unfamiliar with. They're watering flowers just like you would do outside your own home. We refer to the language that the instructor is going to teach on here as emergent language. We'll give them a minute to finish this activity here.
Great job, everyone. Let's take a look at some of the phrases that I heard while you did that activity. So one of the first things that I heard was, en la mañana yo bebo café. Excelente. Muy bien, Misty. Muy bien. But we also did have some that require a little bit of support. Let's take a look to see how we can fix that together.
So the instructor gave some space there to the learners, and after a set time covered those strengths and struggled. Again, we call that emergent language. Very important for adults to have that space to practice the language. And this type of feedback really allows learners to get that personalized, targeted feedback that really relates overall to the goal of the lesson. I'd love to hear your thoughts. What did you notice? Again, feel free to unmute yourself. I'd love to hear anything that you're thinking when you were looking at that home scene.
Hello from France.
Hello, Christian.
It's very nice. Actually, is there a learning curve to become familiar with the system and the controller?
Yes, so we have tutorials that our members
That's excellent.
Yeah, our learners go through. So they learn how to not only just move, but how to use all the tools that are available to them. Great question. So there is no doubt that home scene is an excellent scene for A1 and A2 learners, right? However, it's important to also have spaces that push learners at those upper levels, B2, C1, especially those maybe needing language for the workplace. So our platform has several professional workplace scenes as well. We have a meeting room, a bank, a networking space, a debate stage, and this beautiful co-working space. In this co-working scene, we teach lessons on negotiating, initiating a conversation, describing immediate needs, and clarifying instructions. Now we're going to look from the learner perspective again here. And this is a B2 advanced English lesson. This lesson is on bringing a conversation back to the topic. So let's listen in again.
So these phrases are helpful in both professional and casual cases. For example, if someone is talking about their weekend during a meeting, you could say, "I hate to interrupt, but we need to discuss the agenda. Do you know of any other ways to interrupt?"
Maybe, I'm sorry, but can we get back to the topic?
Yeah,
Excellent.
or I appreciate those thoughts, but can we get back to the agenda?
Okay, perfect. Can we get back to the agenda? Excellent. Awesome. So now what we're going to do, let me send you these notes. Now what we're going to do is we're going to head down to the coffee bar area, if you will join me.
So as they're moving down and around the space, just take in this space. Notice the breadth and depth of it. Definitely more than one level here. And it really represents an actual space, somewhere I would love to co-work at, right? There are multiple spaces for partners or larger groups to work. So we're seeing some of those spaces now. There's also a little bit of a relaxation area where you can relax on a beanbag. And we're going up now to the beverage and snack area. So when you're engaged in a lesson, imagine being able to grab a cup of coffee, have a little small talk around the beverage center, and maybe even find a healthy snack.
Great. Now you are going to work again with each other and take turns selecting a prompt. The first half of the prompt shows the intended topic of the conversation, and the second half is an off-topic theme. If you select the prompt, you will begin discussing the intended topic. For example, if you select feedback session, lunch plans, I may begin to ask my partner what they thought about the feedback session we just had. Then my partner will be the person who derails the conversation or goes off topic. So my partner may say, "I wonder if that burger joint is open today. I was hoping to." Then you need to interrupt your partner to get them back on topic. You could say, Let me interject. We have a lot to discuss about that session, and we are in a time crunch. You have 6 minutes.
Okay, you want me to go first?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, let's do a team building event. Okay, so Stephen, I think for the team building event, we might need to have a few more meetings to prepare.
Yeah, but maybe before that, did you see that cat video that I sent around in our Slack channel?
Oh, let's focus. We really have a tight deadline, and I want to make sure that we get the next meeting scheduled first.
Okay, let's do it. What do we need to do next?
All right, your
All right,
turn.
my turn. Let's see. Let's plan a trip. Okay, I know we're planning a trip for that upcoming conference, and so I was hoping we could spend a little bit of time just separating out the responsibilities to make sure we get the trip planned.
Yeah, for sure. But have you seen Wicked yet? I've been dying to ask you. It's by far my favorite movie of all time.
Okay, I want to talk about that, but let's do it later.
Oh,
Right now, let's talk about planning our trip for the conference.
sure.
So you're seeing the learners engage with the content and applying it in a real world scenario. They were even able to use their notes and some other tools to assist in that process.
Awesome. Great job, everyone. Let's celebrate. Awesome. So you did great today, but I want to see how you're feeling. So I'm going to send you a poll about today's lesson.
We understand that self-reflection is a really important part of learning, and all our lessons end with a poll. These polls serve two purposes. First, they allow us to see how comfortable and confident a learner is, but they also allow the learner to stop and reflect on their own comfort level with the new content. These polls may simply ask about how confident or comfortable they are, or there may be an assessment question to assess their understanding of that new language. So we really appreciated you getting a glimpse into our platform, and we hope you enjoyed that glimpse.